Despite the fact that Australia is far away from us and we don't know much about it. Probably everyone has heard about its largest cities, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane at least once. They are united not only by a large number of residents, but also by their proximity to the Pacific Ocean. It may seem that there is almost no life in the center of the continent due to difficult weather conditions and the small population of the country. Yes, and many videos talk about it. So I decided to open the map and see what is really there. And so a very interesting hero of this video appeared, the city of Alice Springs. Alice Springs is located almost in the geographical center of Australia. The distance by car to the nearest seacoast is about 1,200 kilometers. And to the nearest large city is almost 1,500 kilometers. The first settlers in this territory were the Australian Aborigines of Oranda. They first appeared here several tens of thousands of years ago. Their myths tell that this region was created by huge caterpillars who failed to win the battle with stink bugs. As a result, the bodies of the caterpillars turned into the McDonald Mountain Range, where to this day you can see a large number of ancient rock paintings. Representatives of the tribe still live in the Alice Springs area and actively participate in the struggle of the Australian Aborigines for their rights. The total number of Oranda is about 2,000 people, but the modern development of the city began much later. In the early 1860s, the Scottish traveler John Macdonald Stewart, accompanied by two people, attempted to cross Australia from south to north. Then he managed to get only to the Macdonald Ridge, becoming the first European to see it. Subsequently, he tried to cross the continent twice more, and the expedition that began on October 23, 1861 and ended on July 24, 1862 was crowned with success. And in 1872, thanks to Stewart's data, the construction of an Australian land telegraph line connecting Adelaide with Darwin was completed. When it was being built, the surveyor noticed a dried-up riverbed. Following it, he found a spring with clear water, which was named Alice Springs in honor of the wife of Sir Charles Todd Superdante Telegraphs. Well, the dried-up river was called Todd. As for the city that we now know by this name, it originally bore the name of Stewart. It was renamed Alice Springs only in 1933. In 1878, a post office was opened in the city. A little later, a police station appeared. An important moment in the history of the city was the discovery of loose gold in Artlung, located about 100 kilometers to the east. It happened in 1887. With the help of so-called camel trains, water and supplies began to be delivered from Alice Springs to Artlunga. Many modern residents of the city are descendants of those camel drivers. And yes, if anyone did not know, the camel was brought to Australia in the 19th century, and now thousands of wild camels are walking around Australia. But back to the topic of the video. In 1929, a railway was brought to the city, thanks to which the number of Europeans inhabiting it began to grow. But more serious changes occurred during the Second World War. Before it began, Alice Springs was an isolated settlement with 500 inhabitants. During the war, the city turned into a transshipment base. At one point, there was even talk that he would be able to replace Darwin as the capital of the Northern Territory of Australia. And already during the Cold War, an American military base PNG was built 18 kilometers from Alice Springs. What exactly is going on there is unknown, but something related to satellites and electronic intelligence. Aviation flights over it are prohibited. At the same time, the secret base has managed to shine more than once in popular culture. For example, Netflix made a whole series about her. It works to this day, and the last expansion and the largest since the Cold War was in 2017. The staff now consists of about 800 people from Australia and the USA. The base undoubtedly influenced the development of the city. since such a serious infrastructure had to be maintained. Now the city is the center of the railway and highway connecting the north and south of the continent. The local climate here is hardly ideal for living. As in other desert regions around the world, the temperature here can reach plus 40 degrees Celsius in the summer months. On particularly hot days, locals prefer not to be outside for a long time, hiding from the heat in shopping malls. Yes, they are here, and there is also a city swimming pool, a university and college, and even an airport. At the same time, the city's population is only about 26,000 people. In winter it becomes easier, and sometimes the thermometer shows even sub-zero temperature. The city is very dry all year round. Most of the precipitation falls in summer, but even then people have to drink a lot of water, and tap water in Alice Springs is completely safe to drink. In general, if you walk along the central streets of the city, nothing but delight this place does not cause. Silence, neat streets, manicured lawns, lots of trees. There is no hint that you are in the middle of a deserted Australia, but one has only to drive a little away from the center and it immediately becomes clear where you are. According to the census of 2021, about 26,000 people live in the city. At the same time, every 10th person here is an American, that is, with U.S. citizenship. Americans live permanently in Alice Springs. Since the creation of the 421 Squadron of the U.S. Air Force in 1954, that is, even before the construction of a secret base. Naturally, with the advent of PNG, their number has increased. The city also has several immigrant communities, including Vietnamese, Chinese, Thai, and Indian. It is not surprising that in Alice Springs you can find several restaurants serving their traditional dishes. About 20% of the city's population are Aborigines. They usually choose suburbs and small family settlements or so-called urban camps to live in. The latter appeared in Australian cities in the 1970s and 80s. Initially, they were a place where Aborigines who came from remote areas could temporarily stay. Later, some of them turned into a permanent home for some people. The largest employers in Alice Springs, the government of the Northern Territory of Australia, is one of the subjects of the country. Alice Springs is the third largest city in this region and serves an area of 546,000 square kilometers, which is almost equal to the area of France. 8% of employees are employed in public administration, slightly less in school education and hospital. There are also several mining and cattle breeding enterprises. For many years, almost the main source of replenishment of the city budget was cash receipts from PNG. Recently, the most important place has become tourism. About 350 kilometers from Alice Springs is the Uluru-Kata-Tayuta National Park, included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. And a little closer is the national park, the Finke Gorge with a stunning desert oasis. Palm Valley in the city itself, too. There are some interesting places, for example, for animal lovers, a kangaroo rescue center, and for art fans there is an Ireland Center, which includes for galleries and a theater. This is the main venue for exhibitions in Alice Springs. The focus is on the work of Aboriginal artists and contemporary art. Outdoor activities include hiking in the nearby McDonald Ranges. Several unique events are also held. For example, the Genlion Todd Regatta is an imitation of a boat race held in the usual dry sandy bed of the Todd River. The boat here really means a metal frame hung with advertisements, which is held by a team of rowers, but the truth is they do not row, but run on the sun-hot sand. A fun event gathers the whole city for the whole day. And in 1993, a funny incident happened. It rained and the riverbed was filled with water. The race was then canceled. As the locals joke, it was the only regatta in the world that was canceled due to the fact that there is water in the river. For tourists, everything seems to look good. But there is also a fly in the ointment. Now Alice Springs is going through far from the best of times. Due to the poverty of the indigenous population, problems with employment and, first of all, alcohol, which until May 2022 was restricted in sale to Aborigines, crime has flourished. Limiting the sale of alcohol in the regions where Aborigines live is a common practice. Due to the fact that indigenous people get drunk faster due to genetic characteristics, they do not produce enzymes that help digest and neutralize alcohol. The same problem exists, for example, among the indigenous peoples of the North and Siberia. The authorities of the Northern Territories of Australia clearly hurried with the abolition of such a ban. So in Alice Springs, after the lifting of restrictions, a sharp increase in the number of crimes, including serious ones, such as murder and robbery, was recorded. Growth of more than 40% in the second half of 2022. This region used to be one of the most criminal in the country, but in 2022 these indicators simply flew into the sky. Most of the crimes were committed by representatives of indigenous peoples and teenagers united in youth gangs that terrorized the townspeople. It got to the point that the city authorities appealed to the federal government with a request to mobilize the army to establish order. To calm the situation, the Prime Minister of Australia even came to the city. It got to the point that tourist operators do not want to contact Alice Springs, and guests were strongly advised not to go outside after dark. In the end, the local authorities began to combat the high crime rate by reintroducing strict restrictions on the sale of alcohol and increasing the number of police officers. After that, the situation improved slightly, but the residents of the city are sure that other measures are needed. Despite the current difficulties, all is not lost for Alice Springs. It can and will develop further as a tourist center. After all, the natural beauty surrounding it and the unique location in the center of the mainland have not gone away, and you can still get to the city itself either by plane or by train next and get to Darwin. So, if the authorities still listen to the majority of locals and begin to fight crime not only by banning alcohol, but also by creating conditions for improving the standard of living and education of the indigenous population, Alice Springs will have a real chance to become a prosperous city in all respects, attracting guests from all over the world. At least he has everything for that. That's all, friends. Share the video if you liked it, write comments and put likes. See you soon.